The cosmic message begins, Capricorn. The message you've been waiting for may finally be ready to reveal itself. On August 15th, Mercury meets Jupiter in a powerful cosmic alignment. And for you, Capricorn, this can symbolize a moment when one conversation, realization, opportunity, or truth suddenly changes the way you see your future. Before we go any further, I want you to take a breath, because what I'm about to share with you isn't a list of predictions. It's not a countdown of this will happen, then that will happen. This is something deeper. This is about a shift that may already be stirring quietly inside you, even before the date arrives. Let's start with the basics, because understanding the symbolism here matters. Mercury, astrologically, is the planet of communication. It rules your thoughts, your words, the way you process information, the conversations you have, and the decisions you make in a day. Mercury is quick. Mercury notices details. Mercury is the part of you that thinks, questions, and speaks. Jupiter, on the other hand, is almost the opposite in energy, and that's exactly why this meeting matters so much. Jupiter is traditionally associated with expansion, optimism, faith, opportunity, and wisdom. Where Mercury deals in details, Jupiter deals in the big picture. Where Mercury asks, what does this mean right now? Jupiter asks, what could this become? So when these two planets meet, when they form what astrologers call a conjunction, something interesting happens. The small, quick-moving energy of Mercury gets picked up and magnified by the expansive energy of Jupiter. A thought doesn't just stay a thought. A conversation doesn't just stay small talk. A passing idea doesn't just fade away. It grows. And Capricorn, this is where I need you to really listen, because the most important part of this alignment may not be something that happens outside of you. It may not be a phone call, an email, or an event you can point to and say, that's the sign. The important part may be something that becomes clear inside you, a realization, a moment of understanding that quietly rearranges how you see your next chapter. There is a message trying to reach you right now, Capricorn, and whether it comes through someone else's words or through your own inner voice finally being loud enough to hear, I think you already sense that something is shifting. Stay with me, because what this energy is asking of you is bigger than most people realize. And by the end of this video, I think you'll understand exactly why August 15th may feel different from any other day this year. Why August 15th feels different. Here's what makes this particular alignment so symbolically powerful for you, Capricorn. Mercury and Jupiter are not meeting in just any part of the sky. They're meeting in Leo. And Leo is bold. Leo is expressive. Leo is confident, warm, and unapologetically visible. Leo doesn't whisper. Leo speaks with its whole chest. Now think about that for a moment, Capricorn, because this is where the story gets interesting. You are an earth sign. You are known for patience, structure, discipline, and careful planning. You don't throw yourself into things impulsively. You build slowly. You test the ground before you take a step. You've probably been told at some point in your life that you're too cautious or too serious, and maybe you've quietly carried that comment longer than you'd like to admit. But this energy, Mercury and Jupiter meeting boldly in Leo, is not asking you to abandon who you are. It's asking you to expand who you are. Astrologically, this can symbolize a pull toward bolder communication, toward finally saying the thing you've been rehearsing in your head for weeks, toward stepping into a little more visibility than feels comfortable, toward thinking bigger than the safe, practical plan you've been quietly sticking to. And here's the part that might resonate the most. This energy may encourage you to finally speak up about something you've been holding back. Maybe it's an idea at work you haven't pitched yet. Maybe it's a feeling you haven't told someone. Maybe it's a goal you haven't admitted out loud because it felt too big, too far away, too unrealistic for someone as grounded as you. Capricorn, this is where it starts to get interesting, because the very thing you've been protecting yourself from saying may be exactly what this alignment is asking you to release. You don't have to become someone else. You don't have to become loud or reckless, but you may be invited gently to consider that bigger doesn't always mean less secure. Sometimes bigger simply means truer. And if that idea unsettles you a little, good. That's usually a sign it matters. The message you were not expecting. Let's talk about this message, Capricorn, because I know you're probably wondering, what exactly is it? Where is it going to come from? How will you know it when it arrives? Here's the truth. It may not look the way you expect. For some of you, this message may come from another person. It could arrive through a conversation you didn't plan for, a call from someone you haven't spoken to in a while, an email that lands in your inbox at just the right moment, a comment from a colleague that stays with you longer than it should. It might come from a friend saying something so simple, so offhand, that you don't realize its weight until hours later, when it's still sitting in the back of your mind. For others, it may come through a professional contact, a conversation about a project, a partnership, an opportunity that seems to appear almost out of nowhere. Something that makes you pause and think, wait, I didn't expect this. But here is what I want you to really understand, Capricorn. The message does not have to come from someone else at all. Sometimes the most powerful cosmic message is the one you finally admit to yourself. Think about that for a second. How many times have you already known something, deep down, quietly, in the part of your mind you don't visit very often, and simply chosen not to look at it? Not because you're avoiding the truth out of weakness, but because you're Capricorn. You wait until you're sure. You wait until it's safe. You wait until the timing makes sense. But some truths don't wait for perfect timing. And this alignment, this meeting of Mercury and Jupiter, may be the moment one of those truths finally becomes too clear to set aside. Maybe it's about your career. Maybe it's about a relationship. Maybe it's about the direction your life has quietly been drifting in without you fully choosing it. Whatever it is, Capricorn, I want you to stay open over the next few days. Not anxious, not waiting for something dramatic to happen. Just open. Because the message you are not expecting may be closer than you think, and it may already be trying to get your attention. And this is where it gets interesting, Capricorn, because depending on where this message lands, it could touch two very different parts of your life. Let's start with the one most of you have been thinking about already. Career and money energy. Career, Capricorn. Let's talk about it. Because if there is one area of life where you feel most at home, most in control, most yourself, it's usually here. You take your work seriously. You take responsibility seriously. And more than almost any other sign, you understand the value of long-term effort, the kind that doesn't show results overnight, but slowly, steadily builds into something real. So when I tell you that Mercury meeting Jupiter can symbolically open the door to bigger career conversations, bigger financial thinking, and bigger professional possibilities, I know part of you leans in immediately, because this is your language. Growth, opportunity, progress. This is where you thrive. Astrologically, this alignment may encourage conversations around negotiation, learning, networking, or presenting an idea you've been developing quietly. You may find yourself in a discussion about the future, a future role, a future project, a future direction for your work that feels bigger than the conversations you're used to having. You may also notice an unusual pull to learn something new, a course, a certification, a skill that expands what you're capable of. Jupiter loves growth through knowledge, and Mercury loves absorbing new information. Together, this combination may spark real curiosity about expanding your capabilities. But Capricorn, listen closely here, because this next part matters more than anything else in this section. Do not confuse expansion with recklessness. This is not permission to jump into something without reading the fine print. This is not a green light to say yes to every offer that sounds exciting. Jupiter can inflate possibility, but it's still Mercury's job and yours to look carefully at the details, ask the questions, read the terms, think about what this opportunity will actually require of you, not just what it promises to give you. Here's a line I want you to hold on to. The opportunity may be big, but Capricorn, your wisdom is knowing what deserves your yes. You don't have to say yes to everything that looks impressive. You only have to say yes to what actually aligns with the future you are quietly, patiently building. Brick by brick, decision by decision, the way you always have. If something during this period feels expansive and grounded at the same time, that combination is usually worth paying attention to. Love and relationships. Now let's shift into something a little more personal, Capricorn, a little more intimate, because this energy doesn't stay in the boardroom, it follows you home. If you're single, this alignment may bring conversations that feel unusually meaningful, even ones that start out casually. A new connection might carry a certain depth you didn't expect right away, or an existing friendship might suddenly reveal a layer you hadn't noticed before. Mercury-Jupiter energy tends to expand communication, so don't be surprised if a conversation with someone new goes deeper, faster than you're used to allowing. If you're in a relationship, this may be a moment for honest, bigger-picture conversations. Not small talk about the week ahead, but real discussions about where things are going, trust, commitment, shared goals. The kind of conversation that either brings you closer together or clarifies something that needed clarifying. And if you're healing from someone who left, someone who hurt you, someone whose absence you've been quietly carrying. I want to say this gently but clearly. Closure does not always come through an apology. Sometimes closure comes through understanding. A moment where something that never made sense finally does. A realization that helps you stop asking why and start moving forward. You may not get the conversation you once hoped for, but you may get something almost as valuable: clarity. Because here's the truth about this cosmic message, Capricorn, especially in matters of the heart. It's not about chasing. It's not about forcing a reunion, forcing an answer, or forcing someone to give you the closure they may never be capable of giving. It's about you, finally, seeing the situation clearly enough to release your grip on it. Whatever your relationship status is right now, this energy is asking the same question in different forms. Are you communicating honestly with yourself and with others? Because Mercury doesn't just want you to speak, it wants you to speak the truth. And Jupiter doesn't just want growth, it wants growth built on something real. But there is one more layer to this, Capricorn, and it's the deepest one yet. The hidden truth coming to the surface. I want you to slow down with me here, Capricorn, because this next part isn't about career and it isn't about romance. This part is about something quieter, something that lives underneath both. Remember what I said earlier? Jupiter expands what Mercury reveals. A small thought becomes impossible to ignore. A whisper becomes a voice you can no longer talk over. So I want you to ask yourself something honestly. Is there a pattern in your life right now? Something you've been minimizing? Something you've been telling yourself it's not that big of a deal about, even though some part of you knows it is? Maybe it's a work situation that quietly drains you more than you admit. Maybe it's a relationship dynamic you've been explaining away for months. Maybe it's a decision you've been delaying again and again, always finding one more reason to wait a little longer. Capricorn, you are remarkably good at carrying weight without complaint. It's one of your greatest strengths, and sometimes it's also the thing that keeps you stuck, because you can tolerate almost anything if you decide it's necessary. You can rationalize discomfort into just part of the process. You can delay a decision for so long that the delay itself starts to feel like the decision. But around August 15th, something may shift. A thought that you've pushed aside a dozen times may return an 11th, a 12th time, except this time it doesn't leave quietly. What keeps returning to your mind may be worth examining. That's not a coincidence, Capricorn. Recurring thoughts are rarely random. They tend to circle back because some part of you already knows they matter and is simply waiting for you to stop looking away. This isn't meant to unsettle you. It's meant to prepare you. Because before any real change can happen, in your career, in your relationships, in your sense of direction, there is almost always this moment first. The moment where the truth stops being something you can quietly set aside and becomes something you finally have to look at directly. And Capricorn, I think you're closer to that moment than you realize. The decision point. Here's something important, Capricorn, and I don't want you to miss it. Receiving clarity does not mean you have to act immediately. I know your instinct. The moment something becomes clear, you want to move. You want to plan, structure, and execute. That's who you are. But this energy isn't asking you to rush. It's asking you to pause, verify, and separate what is real from what is fear-talking. So let's slow this down with 3 questions. Simple, but powerful. First, what is actually being offered? Not what you hope it is. Not what you're afraid it might be. What, specifically, is on the table? Strip away the emotion for a moment and look at the facts. Second, what would this require from me? Every opportunity, every relationship, every decision has a cost: time, energy, risk, change. Before you say yes to anything, know exactly what you're being asked to give. Third, and this is the one that matters most, does this support the future I am building? Not the future someone else wants for you. Not the future that looks impressive from the outside. The future you have quietly, patiently been constructing, decision by decision for years. Capricorn, when you run a potential opportunity, conversation or realization through these 3 questions, you strip away the noise. You stop reacting from urgency or fear, and you start choosing from something much stronger: self-respect. This is the difference between a decision made from desperation and a decision made from clarity. Desperation says, I have to take this because I'm afraid of losing it. Self-respect says, I will take this because it truly fits where I'm going. And I will walk away from what doesn't without guilt. You've spent your whole life being the one who thinks things through. Trust that part of yourself now. Whatever clarity arrives around this Mercury-Jupiter alignment, you don't need to rush your response to it. You only need to be honest about what it means. The bigger future Capricorn is being asked to imagine now, Capricorn. I want to lift you up a little. Because everything we've talked about so far, the clarity, the hidden truths, the careful decision-making, all of it is leading somewhere important. It's leading toward permission. Permission to imagine something bigger. Here's something worth being honest about. Capricorn sometimes underestimates what is possible, not because you lack ambition, but because you've learned through experience to protect yourself from disappointment. Somewhere along the way, maybe after a setback, a rejection, or a plan that didn't work out the way you hoped, you may have quietly lowered the ceiling of what you allow yourself to want. You told yourself to be realistic, to be practical, to not get ahead of yourself. And there's wisdom in that, real wisdom. But Jupiter's symbolism here is about expansion, about remembering that realistic doesn't have to mean small. You can be both grounded and expansive. You can be both patient and hopeful. You don't have to choose between being sensible and being someone who dreams big. This alignment may be asking you to think beyond survival mode, beyond simply getting through the week, managing the to-do list, meeting the obligations. It may be inviting you to picture something further out, a version of your career that feels genuinely fulfilling, not just stable. A version of your relationships built on honesty, not just routine. A sense of financial security that gives you freedom, not just relief. A deeper sense of purpose that goes beyond checking boxes. The cosmic message here may simply be this: you are allowed to think bigger now, not recklessly, not impulsively, but sincerely. You are allowed to want more than what feels safe enough. You are allowed to imagine a future that excites you, not just one that makes sense on paper. Capricorn, what would it feel like to let yourself want that fully without immediately talking yourself out of it? Sit with that question for a moment, because I think the answer is closer to the surface than you expect. What Capricorn should watch for around August 15th. So now let's talk practically, Capricorn, because I know you appreciate having something concrete to hold on to, not just symbolism floating in the air. Let's talk about what to actually watch for in the days surrounding August 15th. First, watch for unexpected conversations, not the ones already on your calendar, not the meetings you planned for, but the ones that seem to appear out of nowhere. A message from someone you haven't spoken to in a while. A call that catches you off guard. A conversation that starts as small talk and somehow turns into something you didn't see coming. Second, pay attention to repeated ideas. If the same thought, the same suggestion, or the same piece of advice keeps circling back to you from different directions, through a friend, through something you read, through your own internal voice at 3 a.m, that repetition is rarely meaningless. When something keeps finding its way back to you, it's usually asking to be taken seriously. Third, notice invitations. This could be literal. An invitation to an event, a meeting, a collaboration, or it could be more symbolic. An invitation to speak up, to apply, to reach out first instead of waiting to be asked. Jupiter energy often shows up as an open door you weren't expecting to see. Fourth, watch for useful information arriving almost by accident. A comment overheard in passing. An article someone shares without knowing how relevant it is to your situation. A conversation where someone mentions something that answers a question you've been quietly holding on to. Fifth, be aware of reconnections. People from your past, a former colleague, an old friend, someone you lost touch with, may resurface. Not always with dramatic meaning, but sometimes carrying exactly the perspective or information you didn't know you needed. Sixth, notice sudden confidence. A moment where you feel unusually sure of yourself, where you speak up without overthinking it first, where you say the thing you'd normally rehearse for days and it simply comes out clean and direct. Seventh, pay attention to a strong desire to learn, an unexpected pull toward a subject, a skill, a book, a course. Jupiter loves growth through knowledge, and this pull is often more meaningful than it first appears. And eighth, clarity about a future decision. A moment where something you've been going back and forth on for weeks, maybe months, suddenly feels obvious, where the answer that once felt complicated becomes simple. Now, Capricorn, I want to be honest with you about something important. None of these are guaranteed supernatural signs written in stone. This isn't about waiting for something magical to fall out of the sky and prove the astrology right. These are prompts, invitations for reflection. Astrology, at its best, doesn't hand you answers. It hands you better questions and a little more awareness of the patterns already moving through your life. So here's what I genuinely suggest. Keep a small note somewhere, your phone, a notebook, whatever works for you, and simply write down what you notice over the next several days. Don't force it. Don't manufacture meaning where there isn't any. Just observe, gently, the way a careful person like you naturally does. And then, a week or two from now, go back and read what you wrote. I think you'll be surprised by what you find. Because clarity rarely announces itself loudly. Usually it's quiet. And it's only in hindsight, looking back at the small moments you almost dismissed, that you realise how much was actually being revealed to you all along. The final cosmic message. Capricorn, we've covered a lot of ground together. Career, love, hidden truths, decisions, a bigger future. But I want to bring it all back to one point. For most of your life, whenever something big has appeared, you've asked yourself a quiet, persistent question. What if it fails? That question has protected you. It's part of why you've built the stability you have. I'm not asking you to abandon it, but I am asking you to hold a second question beside it. What if this is finally the direction I have been preparing for? All that patience, all that careful planning, all those years of doing things the slow, steady way. What if none of it was wasted time? What if it was preparation for exactly this moment, arriving now that you finally have a foundation strong enough to hold what comes next? That's the real meaning behind Mercury meeting Jupiter for you, Capricorn. Not one lucky conversation or one dramatic opportunity. An expansion of your mind, your voice, and your vision of what's possible. Carry this with you. The universe does not need you to know every step. It may only be asking you to recognize the next one. You've never needed to see the whole staircase, Capricorn, just the step in front of you. And I think, if you're honest, you already see it. Strong YouTube CTA before you go, Capricorn. If any part of this message found you at the right moment, type "I am ready" in the comments below. It won't change the astrology, but saying it is its own small declaration that you're open to what's coming next. If this video resonated with you, take a moment to like it. It helps this message reach more Capricorns who need to hear it right now. And if you want to keep walking through these cosmic shifts together, subscribe. The sky doesn't stop moving, Capricorn, and neither do you. So as we close this chapter, I'll leave you with this. Whatever message finds you next, don't ignore the part of you that already knows why it matters. You've always known more than you give yourself credit for. Maybe it's finally time to trust that.